Well, hello, my diet disruptors. Welcome to our Monday episode. And, I know that sometimes I do these episodes on my own and I got all this stuff I want to share, but I always think it's so much better when I can bring people in to be able to share their story, their inspiration, and just kind of show you a few things rather than hear from it from me. And so today we have a diet disruptor that I cannot wait for you to meet. This is Christina. So if you are watching live, please put hi, Christina, because Christina's nervous, right? She's never done anything like this before, but she knew that she had a responsibility to share her story with you all. So Christina, hello.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here, Carrie.
Tell everybody where you're from.
I am from, I live in Fort Mill, South Carolina, which a lot of people don't always know. So I would say Charlotte. A lot of people know Charlotte.
Yes. So if there's any, I know we have a bunch of people from that area. So shout out, Christina, if that is where you're from too. So we're going to talk, Christina. We have so much to talk about because your story is incredible. And I just think, like I said before, you knew you had a responsibility to share your story. And that's going to kind of be our theme today around the concept of responsibility. Because when I first met you, gosh, it was last year sometime. I want to say, when did we meet? When did you start working with us?
I want to say it was January, February.
Yeah, it was like a
literally
year.
right around now.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so funny because so many people around this time of year are just like, I got myself in shape, and we do tons of calls with women. And so there was, I got to meet you, I got to meet your husband, and it was lovely. We had a really nice conversation. I know that you were really searching for some solutions because you weren't happy with your body. You weren't happy with the way that you were living. You felt very confused and a bit out of control. But what I didn't know, so we'll talk about that. What I didn't know was your story of all the things that you experienced before you got on that call with me. And so I'd love for you to share a little bit of when you got on a call with me, what had been going on in your life before that?
Yeah. Well, Carrie, I had, it's personal and I love sharing it because I think it's, something that I want for people to know, about. And, before I came on this journey, I had been a couple years before that, I struggled with, alcohol, and I realized I'm actually at 3 years sober today, or not today, I'm sorry, this last month. And
Congratulations.
and so but I had to go through that last and experience what everything in my life looked like in a different way. And so sobriety gave me a whole different outlook on life, and it was a really hard road that I went through, but little by little I learned about myself, and I realized life got so much better afterwards. And I started, I wanted to better myself in so many ways. And I really tried to do the best that I could as far as like getting in shape, and I had this like new outlook on life, and I felt like it was a gift, because I had been struggling with alcoholism for almost since I started drinking. It was really a bad spiral, and so but what happened is we all got stuck with, COVID came around. And unfortunately, I isolated, and that is probably the worst thing somebody can do in sobriety. And I didn't, although I had a great program, I lost track, and then I lost track of myself entirely. I went to food, and I instantly just baked and cooked, and I did it like thinking it's out of love, but to be honest, I was miserable, and I started getting depressed. I was napping and sleeping all the time. My kids were home. We kept them home. I homeschooled them. I was snapping at them. My relationship, honestly, was not in a good place. We were not, we were both unhappy. We both were doing this to each other. We were just eating like it was, and it's crazy because it's just eating, right? But it's so much more. Like it was just making us, we were gaining weight. I think it just took on like this beast before I even knew I was in it. And so,
and it's almost like that similar beast that was happening to you when you were realizing that you needed to stop drinking, right? That addiction continued. And in so many ways, especially for women, I think sometimes the drinking, can become a problem before we don't even realize it. Right. Like it's social, it's with dinner, it's with this and that. And then it turns into so much more. And it seems like you then replaced the addiction and came through so much, but with a whole nother addiction when it came to food. And when you came to me, you were talking about sugar and how addicted you were to sugar. I didn't know your whole backstory.
Right.
And like how addictive, a personality can be. And
absolutely.
A food plan for you was not going to cut it. Me just telling you how to eat wasn't going to cut it, even though in some ways that's really kind of what you thought. You need to just understand more about food. But this has been such a journey of self-discovery for you all over again.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I think about the word responsibility. And when you got sober, it was a responsibility that you had to yourself, but to your family, to your husband, and to kind of just being able to be the responsible mom that you needed to be. And then this started and it was like, okay, now I have a responsibility to figure this out. And you had already done some really hard things, which I didn't even know at that time. And so this wasn't, what do you think? Do you think jumping into working with us was as hard as your story before? Or do you feel like it was sort of a next progression and because you had done hard things before, it wasn't as hard?
That's tough because I think they were different, but they were similar because it was a lot of mental that I had to get past, and I had to have confidence in myself. It was just, there was a lot of similarities within the two. So I think it helped me in a lot of ways to go through it. But I want to say, I have to say sobriety was probably the harder because I had never done anything like that. I did whatever I never had to give up something and have to learn how to live without it.
Yeah.
And then, with this journey, I feel like you don't have to learn to live without it. You just have to learn to eat differently. So you do have to struggle a little bit, but I'll tell you what, the struggle didn't last very long once you get in it.
Yeah. And I think you make a really good point about, again, responsibility. Like your journey in sobriety really meant a whole, like you had to cut something off that was an escape for you. That was, some sort of a unhealthy therapy in a lot of ways, and find replacement opportunities for you to get healthy. And what I think is interesting about this is like you dug in, and this is what you do. Like you are an amazing, like you just, when you're committed, you're committed. And so I remember when you first started, you were like on it, and telling everybody about it because you were like, I got this responsibility to do this right. Yeah. I invested and I want to tell everybody about it. But what I think is interesting is that as you've stayed on as a member with us and you're staying in the community, but it isn't as black and white as sobriety, right? Once you start to understand about food, and we understand that we can, we can eat what we want, and we just are more intentional and we understand more about food. So tell us a little bit about where you ended up being like over the holidays. You felt like, again, you can't just slip up in sobriety, right? It's like you're drinking or you're sober.
Oh yeah.
Right. There's like a road that can go down, and you felt like you had been in some ways going down a path where you were like, I got to get myself back on. So just talk a little bit about, and I love this story because nobody's perfect, right? And you can learn the concepts and still get yourself kind of off course a bit. So talk about going off course and what you're doing, what you've done to get there.
Well, I think it was, again, like holidays crept in, and I know how to balance myself, but it was like, well, we'll just have dessert, like at the end, it's fine this one time. And I don't know, it just like goes from one day to the next day to the next day.
The exception becomes the norm, right?
My kids, I love to make things for them. And, I just kind of got off course with all the things that I knew. And I know in my head, like I can make really yummy things in a and it can be healthy. Like
Yeah.
I know that I can do this.
Yep.
But, I think I just kind of was like, well, I want to just make these, and it's okay to make the traditional things. I let myself kind of go down a rabbit hole, and I stayed in it. And then, I was kind of like, whoa, I'm back in here. How did I get back? How did I get back here? Now, I wasn't where I was mentally. I would say I was in a much better space. But the beautiful thing is now I've got even more tools, right? So I was like, okay, Christina, you've got this. You've done this. Get yourself back on track. And here I am, like I've been.
Yeah. And that's where community comes in, right? Because and to your point about COVID and isolating yourself, the minute we do that, we get ourselves stuck in the spiral. Very often it's hard to get back in. And so by being in a community of people, of like-minded people, where your toe might've been out of the water for a little while, but you can get your toe right back in, and you have a group of people that are going to support you. And that's what you've done. And so now you are really you've decided to reset, right? And just get yourself right back on track. The tools, because let's be honest, those people that go and work with us, you will know what to do. You know what to do. And I remember you saying to me just a few weeks ago, I'm so confident in knowing what I need to do. A year ago, I would have been searching for the next solution. Yeah. And so when you knew you needed that reset to get yourself back, you weren't spending time searching for solutions. You just jumped right back in.
Right.
And I think that that's so powerful, because when you have the tools, then you can use them. Now, if you're not using them, that's when we need to be digging into what's happening. What are the triggers, and what are the behaviors and my mindsets that are keeping me from moving forward? But you kind of knew that this is where you needed to be, and you had the tools to be able to do it. So tell us how you're feeling now, right? Because you're a year into being a diet disruptor, and you had tons of progress. I mean, I remember when you were like, okay, I know you knew you needed, or you felt like you needed about 15 pounds to lose, and that you needed to handle your sugar cravings and the energy and all of that. And you met all of those goals, right? When you started working with us. And then when you deviated a bit, you still are doing amazing, but you're now feeling like you've reset. So tell us about how you're feeling now compared to where you were like a month ago when you were kind of deviating off.
Yeah, well, so it's actually it's really amazing, because it was faster. I was faster to be able to reset myself. Like I felt like my mind frame was right back in it. And then
let's be honest, you weren't so far off. It's not like you deviated completely. No. So your body was still, and this is what I say all the time, your body does not need you to be perfect. Unlike sobriety, you really do. But for this, you don't need to be perfect, but you do need to be consistent. I still think you were more consistent than you gave yourself credit for. Yeah. So your body was able to jump back in pretty faster.
Right. We still had the balance of PFC. We still lived a lifestyle.
Exactly.
I think we just added, extra things here and there, but we always continued that on, because once you learn that, it's so simple. You just always know how to eat. You just know how to eat. Yeah. So then, when I reset it, but the best thing that I can say about what I'm experiencing right now, number one, I have had no energy at all today. Okay. I have kids, and it's 11. I usually would start and have something to drink to give me energy. I'm sleeping so soundly. And, I think I'm realizing more and more how much sugar plays a part of me. I am happier. I am more, I'm not as anxious. My stress level is way down. I'm able to handle it. And this is like happened literally a day by day thing. I'm noticing it like where I'm at today. And, it just kind of just starts to happen, and you're like, wow. And then weight started shifting. I did add some exercise this time. And I will say that feels really, really good for my mind, body, my soul, like everything. So that is a really important part of it. That's one of the plates, right? Is keeping that. And
think about the plates for a second, because I always say, and everybody that works with us understands this and learns this, right? There's 6 plates: nutrition, exercise, sleep, stress, water, and supplementation. And you need all 6 of those plates to be spinning. I mean, the bottom line is we do, but it's hard to spin all of those plates. And to your point, you never even were spinning the exercise plate really before, right?
No.
But we know the nutrition plate, if we get that down, the other plates start to spin, either organically or because we feel so good, we're ready for the next thing. And so to your point, like when you're doing the right by sleep and you now have the right supplementation, nutrition and supplementation, now you're sleeping better, which, and your stress goes down because you're not putting all of the sugar inside of your body, but also because you're sleeping better. Right. And like all of these pieces kind of trigger improvement in most of these areas. Now you have more energy to be able to exercise. So you organically are going to be able to start spinning another plate almost without thinking about it.
Yeah.
I love that. And that's all because you just chose like, okay, I'm getting myself right back on. So I love the idea of a reset. It is not going on a diet. It's focusing on the plates and just saying, listen, I know life is crazy. I can't always spin all of them all the time, but I'm going to reset myself and just reset all the plates. That's what it means. So you weren't searching the Facebook this year.
No, that's
for
fantastic.
For a new diet.
There's a million of them. They pop on my feed all the time. I just scroll. They're all over the place. And I think I just go back to that time remembering it. I can remember scrolling. I remember when I found you, and there's something about what you had said that was near and dear, and you just spoke. I felt like you spoke from your heart, and I was like, I feel like there's something about her, and the genuine nature, and so I guess that's the biggest thing that I want people to know. It's like, this is real. This is not one of those like schemes out there. You know, people say that. I'm like, this is really, truly the last thing. You will never look at another diet. You will know how to eat. And it's super exciting. So I'm thrilled.
And that goes along with the idea of responsibility, because you were like, I have to tell people about this. Like, this is a responsibility. It's not a secret that you can keep. And also what I love about this, so there's that. And then because you have capacity now, because I don't even think women realize how much of their bandwidth is spent on scrolling the Facebook, the Instagram, the YouTube for the next diet, looking in magazines, trying to figure out what it is. When you suddenly have capacity, you realize, okay, my purpose on earth was not to figure this out. My purpose on earth now is something more. And what you have started realizing, I mean, you were a hairdresser. And I remember you were saying like, that isn't where I want to go back. That isn't the passion. Like, I mean, you have a skill set and a passion for it, right? But that right now in this time of your life, you were like, I have a responsibility to teach this. And so you decided that it was like, I'm going to become that ambassador for people to be able to know my story and to understand why this is so important for you and to share it. And I think that is so powerful. You just went from, we talk about going from a caterpillar to a butterfly, but we think about where you were a year ago when we were talking to where you are now. And now you are supporting other women, men, athletes to be able to rewrite their story. I mean, Christina, that's incredible.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Tell us more about why you wanted to take on this role, being one of our ambassadors and sharing the foundations of this approach, because we call it a movement. And in order to have a movement, we need people on the ground sharing and talking about this. And you were like, that's me. Why?
I want to say it really stems from, I love supporting people and helping people. I've always been like that. I mean, when I feel something, when I have passion for something, I share it. And I want to let people know, like, I just think like we get stuck in some things. Like we get stuck in life and we think there's no other way. We think that we have to be this certain way or that we can't do it. And I've been there where I'm like, I can't do it. We talk ourselves out of things all the time. And, but we have so much inside us. And so if I could share a little bit of that, like that, here I am, I'm just an everyday person, right? Like I did it. I'm here. I'm doing it. I'll do it with you. I just love being able to spread something that can make people feel good. We don't have to live in this. I had somebody recently tell me, I feel terrible. I feel awful. And like asked them how they felt. Like, you don't have to live like that. Like, let's do something. And guess what? I will walk beside you and hold your hand. And so I think that is like why I want to do this. It's really comes from my heart. And I just want to share it.
And I love that. And that's where that responsibility comes in. And you have been on this journey, right? Trying to become more responsible for yourself years ago when you knew you needed to get sober so that you could be more responsible as a mom and as a wife and all of that, show your kids what needed to happen. And then it permeated into every single aspect of your life where you are now working to serve others to help them understand this is possible. And gosh, that is the ultimate, to me, kind of sense of progress and sense of success, to have that confidence to know I never have to look again. And I want to support you in this as well. And so bravo to you putting yourself out there. And I know it's hard, right? Because now you're actually giving yourself a whole nother set of challenges, sharing this with others, putting yourself out there on social media and sharing what you know, because that's hard and that takes vulnerability. But again, you've done hard things. And you know that you have a responsibility to be able to not just keep the secret to yourself. So I'm so proud of you. So proud of you.
Thank you.
You've just come so far. You've come so far. Okay. So when, if you could kind of offer a bit of advice and say, okay, women who think, okay, I don't know, I know I need to change, but it just feels hard. You can do hard things. You know how to do hard things. You're like the master of hard. How do you do something that's hard? You want it, but you're afraid of it. What's the first step towards doing that?
You just have to say yes. You just have to say yes. I mean, I have gone down this road before because I am the worst at getting in my head. And I'll tell you what, it's when you get in your head that it stops you.
Yes.
So you have to push your thoughts out of there, and you just take one step at a time. Yep. And literally you say today, okay, this is the progress. I'm going to do this today. I'm going to set myself up for this. And you have to break it down in small sections, small steps, but know that you can do it and you've got the support. So don't worry so much about tomorrow. Just worry about today. Do one thing today.
And I think what you said is so important. You say yes and know you have support. For you to get back right on the reset is because you had a team, you had a community of people that were going to hold your hand. And that's what you're doing for women. That's what we do for women. We don't let you fail. So you say yes, we're going to show you the next step, the next door that you walk through. So you're right. Ready, fire, aim. You don't have to know where you're going. You just have to know that you want to get there.
Yep.
And I love
that's
that.
It.
So you are just an inspiration. You're inspiring others. If you are like, okay, Christina, yes, I get this. I want you to put down yes in the comments. Yes, that you are going to take a step. And all that step is yes. And then we can help you with the next step of the way. So that is it. I love that advice. Christina, you're amazing. Can't wait to see where you're going to be this time next year.
I know. I'm excited.
Awesome. 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 Thank you so much, you guys. Thank Christina. She was nervous, but she did a great job, didn't she? Yeah. I know she did. So say thank you to Christina and put yes in the comments if you're ready to do this. All right.